When you worry about what others think of you and then bend to appease them, know that your life is not really yours. It belongs to the people who sway your choices because you let them. Rochelle E. Goodrich. Bending Not Breaking. The Legend of Korra. Book 1, Episode 6. And the winner is
Welcome back to another episode of Bending Not Breaking. This is your host, Ben Pruitt, and last time we sat with the spirit of competition. Not literally, because that's not how that works. That's the title of the episode. Anyway, we looked at what rivalry reveals about people. We talked about all kinds of things. It was a flashy pro bending episode, kind of like this one that we're going to talk about. But hold on, walk it back. Underneath, it asked what happens when comparison enters the room. Comparison's a bad thing. It's the thief of joy, as they say. Anyway, when winning matters, when being chosen matters, and when someone else's success starts to feel personal, those are all the things we got into. So go listen to that episode. Today, though, we're talking about, and the winner is, there's an ellipses, so I have to pause because it's part of the title. Anyway, where the stakes shift again this time, and Amon is being a meanie face, and the crowds are cheering. It's wild. And so it's different. It's going to be interesting. And we're talking about this growing threat, how we manage it, calm it, contain it. And sometimes that look a lot like, you guessed it, appeasement. That's our lens. So today we will be tackling this and these moments where people are trying to keep the peace, smooth things over, delay conflict, maybe in the hopes that they can avoid it. Um, and so that sounds a lot like the person who chose the lens. Welcome, Kelly. Hi, welcome back. Kelly's going to be leading the charge today on all things discussion. It's not scary
Mm,
her at all. This
no.
is Bending Not Breaking. Kelly,
Yes.
uh, you chose appeasement. Will you tell me what it means, why you chose it?
Sure. Okay, I pulled a couple definitions. So, appeasement, the act or action of appeasing someone. Oh, shocking. Uh, Especially a policy of appeasing an enemy or potential aggressor by making concessions, or the act of giving the opposing side in an argument or war an advantage that they have demanded in order to prevent further disagreement. So basically, to appease someone or something, to basically let them have something that they want, to hopefully stop further conflict. And I chose this lens. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry, but in the episode, the characters, the council, they're trying to basically decide whether they're going to give in to Amon's demands or if they're going to push forward and basically say, no, you can't do that. And obviously, appeasement has a lot of strong like connotations as far as like World War II. I even read up on a little article about policy of appeasement in World War II just to make sure I had all all my ducks in a row. But I just thought it was a very fitting lens, even though it has pretty big historical implications.
Uh, Educate me. What are the historical implications?
So at the beginning or before World War II, basically the British Prime Minister, the British Prime Ministers that came before World War II were basically deciding what to do about Germany annexing Austria. And basically, with after World War One, there was a lot of like domestic concerns for Britain as far as them being a world power about how they were going to get support if they did have another war.
Mhm.
Because basically the colonies and the people who lived uh, in Britain were basically kind of like sick of it. There was an economic downturn, right? The Great Slump, the Great Depression, all that stuff. So basically, the British prime ministers were like, we should not go to war. Like, we're not going to be able to sustain that. So Germany was annexing Austria. And they said, that's okay, just let them have Austria. And then Germany was annexing Sudetenland in Czechoslovakia. And they were like, as long as you promise basically not to take over the rest of that area, you can have it. So basically, they made a bunch of concessions um, in order to hopefully prevent a war in Europe. Um, But basically, like Hitler and the Nazis, like they basically said no. So even though they were giving into their demands, they
Not
basically were
bad.
like, we're not doing that. Like, we're going to ignore basically everything you had, ignore the Treaty of Versailles, basically ignore all these, you know, legal documents to try to keep Germany in check at the time. And so, yeah, it didn't work. And it ended up, Winston Churchill was one of the like main opposers of appeasement. And basically, he ended up becoming the prime minister during World War II because from the get-go, he was like, don't do it. So
I
yeah,
watched, I watched that
appeasement.
movie. I watched that movie with Winston Churchill turning. Anyway, uh, so what I heard you say was that appeasement doesn't work. Are there other folks, Maggie or Rahul, or other examples of where appeasement has worked in your life and or if your wide, vast knowledge of history?
Historical circumstances. I was trying to think of other ones, but yeah, what do you guys think?
I know that appeasement is a strategy used in the corporate world a lot, and sometimes it does work. Um, Depending on how typically it's used, I think, between upper management
Hmm.
and subordinates, and I don't necessarily think it should work as well as it does, but office politics are fraught, you know.
Yeah, I am remembering examples from like lawyer shows and people who have like advertise Mad Men and Suits and things like that, where these high value clientele, well, if you want to keep me as a client, then you have to do this. And they'll like, well, we have to appease them. And then the main arc of the show is how this client is the enemy, and then eventually it turns on their head, and we don't have to give them what they want. And so appeasement is usually like the villain strategy or the quote weak strategy as it is presented often. And so I guess I'm curious about this whole like appeasement thing. It's coming across with a negative vibe to me, in that it doesn't work and it's used by it is a way of like giving up or giving in to the big bad powerful person. So that's my thought.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree that I feel like that's definitely what people think. But I guess, well, shocking. I feel like context matters because I feel like for the person who's giving into demands, I feel like it depends, right, on
Risk
like
reward, baby.
yeah, risk reward and like me giving up something to gain something, the greater good, deciding like what's, especially I feel like when pride or ego is involved, I feel like sometimes appeasement is the choice to set aside those things
Mm.
and say that, maybe status is not the most important thing or like my personal pride is not the most important thing in this.
Mhm. Hmm. I guess we'll learn more by looking at it in the episode. Uh, but first, Kelly, you have a responsibility to all five of our listeners, and I
Are
need
we four of those five?
that is correct. Yeah. It's, I can only assume we get the errant one listener every now and then. So that's my over under on that. So are you ready to give us a 30-second recap?
Sure.
Because I definitely didn't just watch this episode. Uh, all right, ready? Three, two, one, go.
Okay, so the firefighters are training and for the finals, the pro bending finals, and they hear Amon on the radio, and he's like, "Cancel the finals, or bad things will happen." And they're like, "What?" So they go to the council, and the council's like, "Yeah, we're gonna cancel it." And Cora's like, "No, you can't." And yeah, even Tarlok is like, "I guess we're just gonna cancel it." But then Lynn comes in, and she's like, "No way, we're canceling it. Like, I'm gonna take personal responsibility." And then so they have the
5 seconds.
pro bending finals, and the Wolfbats win. But then Amon comes in and takes away their bending, and ooh,
Ding!
scary.
Um, you spent
Listen, I didn't.
a fifth of your time on
The
like
beginning. Well, listen, nothing really happens after that. Okay, it's
on
just
they were training for the Forbidden Final.
it's hard to build up speed when you're not prepared.
Yeah. No, the whole point is that you are going to miss some things. It's going to be great. It's not meant to be cohesive. It's just impressive when it is. Um, okay. So, friends, pals, uh, we have a responsibility to talk about appeasement. Where did you see it in the episode?
Well, I feel like if we just go right to the reason why I chose the lens, I feel like the council meeting where Tenzin and Tarlok are agreeing for once, and they're saying we need to, save innocent lives by canceling the tournament. I feel like that's like the biggest like think.
Yeah, it's an interesting the okay. So at face value, right, Tarlock is a big meanie face. And what it is this ability of Lynn who is willing to take the fall if things go wrong. And that gives Tarlock this out. Whereas before, I believe his interpretation was if we say yes and things go badly, it will fall on me. And I see this shift as a very selfish decision rather than going with what he thinks is the right decision. In other words, the motivation for the appeasement is the consequence of what of his actions versus the ethics of doing what is right or and so I might be misinterpreting that situation, but I'm curious as to y'all's perspective on that. It feels very like calculated, and I think that's just because we know what we know about this person. We've watched the whole series, but maybe I'm being too mean and critical.
Mm.
I think I agree with that because we see how it's interesting because the teens come in and it was Tenzin, I think, that said the council was unanimous, right? Before they popped in,
Yeah.
which as we've kind of seen a little bit in previous episodes that they're not normally unanimous on anything,
Mm-mm.
right? So like that's such an interesting from the beginning of okay, on this topic we all see eye to eye. And then as soon as Korra says no, and then they're kind of wavering on it, and then another outside force. I think that's the part that's really interesting to me is again another person who's not on the council and is technically not supposed to be there, but is at least in a little bit more of a leadership role than the teens are, right? So,
Yeah.
like another adult.
Yeah.
And then again, as soon as someone else can be held responsible, Tarlock's like, yeah, absolutely. Let's go for it because I think he's so much of the politician in the sense of wants the reward but not the risk
Mhm.
or the repercussions that come with it.
It's hard because like the council seems to be Tenzin,
Mm-hmm.
Tarlock, and Tarlock's pawns.
Yeah.
That is the way the council appears and shows up in terms of its function. Because we see that, Tarlock is like the neck of the head, and like, the council may make the decisions, but he's the one turning the head whatever way he wants it to turn. And I find it really problematic. And that's mainly because I wish there was like an episode. I want an episode on like the history of every person in the council. And I want to learn how they got there and what's going on so that we can understand their motivations, because we don't understand anything about where they're coming from, because they're literally just drawings. We don't even have names or personalities for them. Um, yeah.
I think from one of the previous episode commentaries, the creators actually said that they wanted to have more depth to the council
Hmm.
and go into more like politically, like what what is their allegiance to Tarlock?
Yeah.
Um, but unfortunately it didn't fit within like the scope of the first season and obviously having 20-minute episodes. But that would have been really cool to see.
I would kill, I don't know what I would kill, but I would kill things in order to get like the season one of Korra, the exact same events with just a whole nother series that goes in tandem in time with just giving us more information. Like
Yeah, different perspective.
just different perspectives and scenes, like a wider version of this. Like let's double this season's length by just adding in episodes. Like I would be super down for this having a more full arc. Um, anyway, that's just me. Yeah. Uh, so it sounds like, again, if we go back to this original, supposition from me, that appeasement doesn't work. Um, we also see that not appeasing doesn't work in this case. So we have the council saying, okay, we're going to let it go and we're going to resist the baddie. Um, that doesn't work either. It's almost as if he predicted this would happen. In fact, he says he wants it to happen. This is the best, ideal, most important outcome. Um, so he's in a position of, I win if you do, I win if you don't. Um, that's kind of scary. Like, what does that say about the infrastructure of this whole situation, right? Like the fact that Amon can come in and disrupt so easily is saying something, I think, right? I don't know what.
I think it's saying that he's so much more calculated and um like not only is he seeing next steps in his plan, but he's also, right, like a chess player has planned out what his opponents will possibly do and has a strategy for their next moves as well, and has so strategically made demands in a way, right? Because he hasn't made a big like citywide demand before, right? So it's also interesting that this is the choice of this specific thing, right, to do, because he knows that there will be a lot of bystanders and, right, because it's a big crowd event and it's something that's really popular. But then there's also so many exit routes, right? Because he goes up to exit, but then a lot of the other equalists kind of disappear back into the crowd where they came from, right? So he knew in order to have the best strategy of like essentially, right, like put the sleeper agents in the crowd, like a bigger event would be better because then more of his equalists can be spread out, right? So that's how control is lost so quickly.
Yeah,
I think,
I was going to say quickly, the only other thing I think it points to is that this is a point in history where this kind of resistance, because Republic City is new.
Yeah.
that kind of leadership is new to this world. That kind of interaction, that kind of facing, like, and I think what we're seeing, and it's easy for a viewer to be like, this would never happen in real life with the government. Like, the infrastructure isn't there to support this because this is the first time a resistance like this has occurred in like we are seeing what happens in the beginnings of a republic, if you will. And so it's just interesting to kind of see that perspective as well through this in terms of negotiation, appeasement, concession, etc.
Yeah, I also think that, and this also relates to what we're going through now in real life, a lot of what the Council of Republic City and the officials are trying to do is maintain a status quo. And they're not really actually trying to make any fundamental changes that hear what the base of the equalist movement is saying. They see it as an external threat. And so when your entire goal and your method of operating is based on maintaining a status quo, you essentially open yourself up to external actors breaking that status quo on their terms. And I think, it also makes me think of the current Democratic Party, where their goal isn't really to make fundamental change in
Yeah.
the system. It is to maintain a status quo and to appease as many people as they can across the board while not really doing anything to help any of them. And so you essentially open yourself up to people who can claim to change things fundamentally, and they can do it on their terms fairly easily.
Yeah. I mean, at
I,
best, it's a return to status quo, right? Like, oh, we want to get back to what it was before Trump was in office, which was still problematic. But anyway, I digress. Kelly, go ahead. Sorry.
no, no worries. I was just gonna say, what was I gonna say? Damn. Also, like the count, I feel like the council's expecting like the equalist movement to act in a certain way, to kind of follow like what their expectations and their ground rules are. And the equalists, like an Amman, have a much better understanding of what the resources are of the council and the police force because it's all laid out. Like they've seen it in action. They know what to expect. Versus like the council really doesn't, like Amman does not have all the cards on the table. Like Lynn is expecting chi blockers. They're expecting people who are going to come in, but with the advent of technology, like in the equalist movement, they come in with a completely different tool that the council was clearly not aware of. Like, or I mean, I don't know exactly how they wouldn't be aware of it, but they were not expecting that at all. So I feel like they're expecting certain rules of engagement. And I feel like historically, like when you're negotiating, right, you're expecting both parties to act under the expectations, like the rules of engagement, like we're both following this accord, we're following this agreement, like we're meeting in, you know, in a conflict free, whatever it would be, but the equalists are acting outside of those expectations. And the council's not able to, like you said, they're just trying to maintain their current status. They're not think like they're limited because of those things.
Yeah, it's especially some interesting because the rules of engagement in this context are benders have ability and non-benders do not have those abilities. And so as soon as you disrupt that in any way, it completely flips things upside down.
Wild. Wild, wild, wild.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been focused on this decision between the council and this pressure from Amman. Are there other forms of appeasement or adjacent conversations or things we have not exhausted from this one?
I think what really comes to mind for me is the fact with any of these kind of sports competitions, but also on a larger scale with even like international conflicts, there's this idea that, we see in this episode the wolf bats clearly break several rules. And the referee is appointed to be the person that dictates like when something is a penalty and to enforce consequences for those penalties. And pretty much everyone in that arena saw the Wolfbats break several rules and face no penalties for it and end up winning the game. The
Uh-huh.
commentator even says so. Yet, except for when Amon comes in, they don't really face any judgment for that in a meaningful way within the game. And obviously, like Amon coming in and taking away their bending, that is like more his agenda and less focused on like the context of the game itself.
Yeah.
But we also see on a larger scale, you have things like war crimes and other, you know, kind of like Kelly was saying, rules of engagement that when they're broken, you say, what do we do now?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if there are no real consequences for things being done wrong, what is the point of having the rules in the first place?
You have
Hmm.
perhaps stumbled upon my pedestal for this episode. That I am going to now step upon. Um, the okay. So thank you for just so beautifully teeing me up here. Um, yeah, so this culture of avoidance is something we are seeing live, right? And we see it primarily from the crowd, where, as cheating occurs, the crowd is not there's no booing, there's no everything's just going on as is. Now, under closed, people might be whispering. We don't see that happening, but people might be whispering, like, is that, did you just see that? We don't see that. We don't hear that. We don't hear booing. We don't hear dissent. So all we see is cheering, and we do get that. And so even though seems to be the referee who is calling this out, in essence, there's no one calling this out. There's no intervention, right? Which suggests that this is acceptable behavior. And I cannot imagine that in a community and society where pro bending is as big as it is, that if it's happening at this level, and it is widespread. It's on the radio. It's da 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 da. It is everywhere. It's pervasive. That it is not happening in other arenas as well. And so, what that tells me is that this is a part of the culture where there is an avoidance of accountability. There is an avoidance of conflict. And I cannot help but connect this to a supremacy mindset. So we have this as a bending supremacy, allegory for white supremacy, right? And conflict avoidance is a key characteristic of white supremacy culture. It is like it has a tendency to prioritize comfort. It prioritizes this like artificial harmony that everything's fine. Like power maintenance, which is exactly what's happening. These are the winners. They've been winning uh, over the disparities, the inequities that exist. So this behavior, right, is protecting the existing power dynamics. It's blaming individuals rather than like the societal problem of not addressing conflict, right? It creates this false politeness, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it labels resistance to that as injustice. The problem is what Amon is doing here is severely underscored by the fact that cheaters won. He uses that in his speech. It is directly positioning Amon as more correct than he ever could have been if that had been called out and circumvented ahead of time. Amon was given more leverage, more capacity, more ability to resist in the way that he was doing it by the society not actually holding people accountable. And so it's this really weird situation where the politics of appeasement are supporting extremism and the politics of appeasement are not working. It seems like when it devolves into conflict avoidance that it is in fact perpetuating the supremacy experience rather than an actual accountability and ability to have conflict with one another in the form of like, hey, I don't think this is right. And so I'm I'm done.
Mm, yes, amen. And when you own the referee, when you own the referee, when you own the judiciary, you get to decide what is true
Yeah.
and say, "Oh, actually, we were wronged." So I think who there's also a component of which I feel like you spoke to, who owns the truth, who gets to decide what is true, or even if there's two sides and one side is like just saying, "Well, no, actually, you like somebody did that to us." And it's like, "What? No, nobody did that to you." Well, who's to say?
Yeah, it's bad. And it just also it contributes to like throughout the episode, right? There's this sense that people are like, "Oh, it'll just get better. Maybe this won't happen." And or people not calling little things out, right? It happens in the next episode because I just happened to watch the next episode while I was doing something else. And it just continues where the line of, "Oh, I'll just wait and see if things turn out well." is a form of this of I where am I just being patient or am I condoning problematic behavior, right?
Ugh,
And I think
yeah,
that that's a question that is very live and real. And I wonder if we would be better off being less patient. Weird thing to say.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
I'm I'm struggling to like put together all of my thoughts here. But again, like I was saying before, I'm seeing sort of parallels between what we see in this episode with the wolf bats cheating and like larger like international politics as a whole, but like it's not exactly like one to one. But so in sports, you have someone that is appointed as a neutral party to enforce the rules of the engagement. And when that person is shown to no longer be neutral, there's nothing you can really do except for like, we might see some refs get fired or
get on
something.
Twitter. Get on Twitter. Yeah,
Yeah, or you have players get on Twitter.
yell at the NFL commissioner.
But when it comes to real life things, I know, I mean, obviously the US has set up like a checks and balances system.
The air quotes.
Yeah. Within its structure in order to try and like create that. But on the global level, you don't really have that.
When like the whole point of this is at any point you appeal to the next highest power in order to
Yeah.
use that power and leverage it against the people
Yeah.
who are using their lesser amount of power. And
Yeah.
so what do you do when the highest power in the land, so to speak,
It's
is abusing
also
their power?
is abusing. Oh, this makes me think of like the UN, like and the
Mhm.
Security Council, and like literally, and like even like bringing up thoughts of like the Rwandan genocide and how like they were
Yes.
like, hey, can somebody help us? And literally the Security Council was like, nobody really like wants to do that. That's like a lot of work, and like I don't know, just yeah, like this avoidance of problems and just like saying even sorry, not to bring up the British prime ministers again during World War II, but like even Neville Chamberlain was like, why would we go help them? They're not our people.
Uh-huh.
And
And
yeah, so
I mean, right now, human rights violations are happening in America. And one of the things that I see a lot that I think maybe we've brought up in a previous conversation is the fact that a lot of people are like, oh, the Nuremberg trials for these people are going to be like insane. The amount of consequences that these people are going to face is going to be insane. And I'm thinking back, so when people reference the Nuremberg trials, for Germany, the Nuremberg trials were America designated themselves as the moral authority in that situation because that's what America does. Who's gonna
mm,
who do you expect to do that for us?
ugh.
We placed ourselves in that position as a neutral third party for the Nuremberg trials, and I highly recommend the movie Judgment at Nuremberg because I think it does a really good job of illustrating that, but also showing some parts that like America doesn't really have the it, it is very hypocritical for us to do that.
Mhm.
Um, and to expect another country to try and do that for us, I think is kind of wishful thinking.
Mm,
100% agree. It's a devastating conversation to have, but it's also one where I think we can point to uh, Nuremberg, but also just I think that there are multiple examples of this over time. It happened in response to apartheid. It happened in response to um, a few things, right, including war. But it usually turns into a place where people can just come clean and like like there let's talk. Let's actually have the conversation out loud. Let's do the thing where we actually are able to admit to wrongs, try to right them, and do repair work. I'm forgetting what the specific one I'm trying to reference and what they were called. I don't think it was Nuremberg. Um, but there's this reconciliation that occurs through reparation, and that's one thing that like Germany had to own a lot of the damage that was done. And there is a very different culture around Nazis in Germany than they are here right now in today in the United States. It is completely different in terms of how it's approached. In fact, there is a higher volume of conflict around the labeling and use of that rhetoric. Whereas here, it's nope, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to upset anybody. I don't want to make them mad. And here we are appeasing out of comfort, right? Which, again, this is the design of supremacy culture, right? That is the whole point of it, is to make people so uncomfortable with making other people uncomfortable that no one does it. And so things are then condoned and like allowed because no one's willing to speak up. So here we are watching it in a 30-minute episode of a cartoon talking about bending and magical like waving hands to control elements. And here we are comparing it to the real world because this is the world we live in. Okay, I'm angry. I'm next.
Yeah, no, I'm like, okay, back to the episode. I just keep thinking of like, I'm like other events in history where this has happened. Huh, the Iran nuclear deal.
You did
How
this,
we keep
Kelly.
how we keep at ousting leaders in Venezuela, all under the guise of the U.S. appeasing, right? We're helping. We're doing
Yes.
this for you.
Yeah.
But
So
it's not. Also, yeah, there's power dynamics there. That's what I was thinking about. I was like thinking about the equalist versus the council and like the power dynamic there and how the council feels that they have the leg up in that power dynamic, but what they learn is through this event that they do not.
yeah,
They do not have that.
yeah. Um, I hate to continue, but I'm gonna continue.
Yeah, we
I,
should.
the the other part of this that I think we've been dancing around that I just want to be more explicit around is the like the cost of appeasement. And, there are several characters that are attempting to either buy time or hoping that if they keep things calm long enough, the conflict won't escalate. Maybe it won't happen. And it seems like there's this sense that if we do this long enough, the problem will go away. And it's the same thing with your comparison to Germany in the beginning, Kelly, of like, oh, we'll let them do this. Hopefully they'll stop. Oh, we'll let them do it again. Maybe this will be the last one. Oh, mm-mm. And so the cost of appeasement is betting on the goodwill of the party abusing their power. And the other party's abusing their power. So the goodwill, like, why are we giving goodwill? Like, I just don't understand. I don't get
Hmm.
it. Like, and so,
Oof.
I am curious, right, about what we see as the cost of appeasing the other party, the abusive party, if you will. Because I think trying to keep the peace, frankly, makes the conflict larger.
Well, and it's making me think about how if you're appeasing and you're keeping the peace, it's a whole nother way of manipulating the masses, right? Like it's the idea of the boiling the frog, right? The frog doesn't realize it's in boiling water until it's too late, type of thing, right? And that's what we're kind of seeing here is if it was a lot of big changes over a quick amount of time without all of this setup, there would be a lot more uproar, right? But because we've seen appeasing happening through multiple layers of systems and government and even citizens, right? So then it's so interwoven that you have to like really look hard to see, okay, well, where does this thread actually start? Type of thing, and like how do you unwind and untangle all of that?
I don't know. Yeah, this is you did this to us, Kelly. You picked this lens.
Yeah, it's good for us. It's great. We're doing great. We're doing so good. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Ugh. Um, other moments that we want to talk about, big or small?
I do want to talk about Bolin's character in the context of appeasement, not just in this episode, but I think to me, especially this watch through of the show, Bolin's kind of like people pleasing nature kind of sticks out to me. Like he very much feels like the person where like when the boat gets rocked, he is the one that is trying the hardest to keep it back upright.
100%.
And it's not always for the best. But
Mm.
I wanna hear your guys' thoughts on
I've talked a lot. Anyone else?
it.
No?
I agree with you 100%. It's not always for the best. I guess I was trying to think of what it delays. He's delaying a confrontation, right? Um, Probably with Mako mostly. Uh, but with the people in his life, he's trying to delay that confrontation by saying, "Oh, I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to make it better. Doesn't matter to me."
I feel as though I've opened a dam, unfortunately. And now it's time to talk about privilege. And so I feel like Bolin is the younger brother. One, two, I feel like he is often the first one to um certainly he's the first one that like lifts up like, oh, as soon as anybody starts arguing he's like, no, 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 no. And so his role in the system that he is in with Mako is the like, Mako is grumpy boy, Bolin is happy, make everybody else happy. And we see this especially in season 2, where all of a sudden Nuktuk shows up, and we see that even as he accumulates more and more privilege, he is so unaware of his own capacity and what that privilege actually means and does and gives him. And I think his privilege is so invisible to him due to his circumstance as being poor, that he is unable to see how much bending gives him and how steeped he is in the culture of supremacy regarding bending. And so it's very easy when you are in a negative situation to suppose that bending doesn't give you any privilege, doesn't give you anything. This is just status quo, which is why rural white Americans are like, yeah, Nazis are cool because they don't get it. Ah!
Yeah.
Sorry,
Hmm.
I'm okay. I'm over it. Sorry.
And I think it also speaks to why he was able to be fooled into believing Kuvira's agenda
Yes. He doesn't
in
learn.
season
You
4.
guys, this is way too far ahead. Okay, you gotta cool it.
No, but it's important, you know?
Yeah, I mean, this is like the seed
Yeah,
right here
yeah,
in these moments in this episode.
yeah. Because like he doesn't have the same resources and the same influence that he has in season 4, that he gets as part of being like, within the Avatar's inner circle, which also carries its own privilege.
Privilege invisible to him. That's what I'm saying.
He doesn't really have, yeah,
This is
the
my
stakes.
theory. It's my theory.
Gosh, I was having such a more generous time thinking of Bolin. I was like, yeah, he just tries to make everything okay for everyone and like kind of disregards his own self. And then you guys are like, and he doesn't see the.
No, I mean I love Boland's character. The
I mean,
whole
both
point
are
of these
true.
shows,
Both are true.
yeah, the whole point of these shows is that these characters, both in the original show and this show, the characters are imperfect,
Mm.
and they grow and they learn from the mistakes they make, but they continue to make other mistakes.
Well, I think also part of it is Bolin's not the problem. Bolin is a symptom, right? Like,
Mm.
and so one of the things that I really love is that Bolin is very lovable and his intent is very good. Everything about the individual, right, is saying that Bolin is a good person, wildly good. Like he has so much goodness in him. and I can't blame him as a person for being wrong. However, what I can do is say this is how good people get got,
Mhm.
Mm.
right? And this is how we can look and use this as a good way to say, am I the freaking problem? How am I contributing and how are these blind spots
Yes.
you may have as a good person, right? Still have blind spots and still miss the mark. And so, what are the ways and like we can use this not to say that Boleyn is trash, but rather to say that Boleyn is awesome and all this shit's happening to him. I think he is
Yeah.
a victim in this circumstance, not a perpetrator. And yet, simultaneously, due to his unawareness, he is
Mm.
perpetuating a problem. And so it's this fine line of how do we zoom out and not blame the individual and point to the systems that are creating this environment in which good people make big mistakes? And that's really hard. That's so hard.
Yeah.
That's hard.
And I think that also I'm not gonna talk too much on it because I know, as Kelly said, we're getting way ahead of ourselves. But I think that's why his relationship with Opal is so important because him and Opal, in a way, are foils of each other. Where Bolin starts from poverty, gains influence, and has that influence get to his head, Opal starts in a place of privilege.
This is so good.
And
I
she
hadn't thought about this.
becomes an airbender and lets go of that privilege that came from her family and then goes out and works as an air nomad in while Korra is out of commission to restore balance in the world at a grassroots level. So their
Mm.
arcs
That's wild.
working
That's
against each
awesome.
other are phenomenal.
No, that's brilliant. Mm. That's one of those moments where like this is a good show. Huh?
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, not only
Very
is
nice.
like just a good show, but it shows like how much character development and not only character but just plot timing and thought goes into the creation of the show, right? It's intentional. It pulls back from previous episodes and seasons, even though years have gone by. And I think that's one of the main reasons, right? Where you see that this world still is so popular. Like Korra is not 20 years old, but it's getting there. Like this is what the 10-year anniversary
I think it did it start in 2013 or finish in 2013?
for Korra. I thought Korra was 14, 15. Is it later than that
Maybe
or
it's
earlier? Anyway, you look that up. But my point was that, right, we see, and then when you dive into it and you look at it through a more critical lens, you can still follow these character lines and go, oh, you can see this domino effect that's happening years later in their life of this is one of those pinnacle moments where even though like it's not a big moment, but in fact it creates this character and this moral like worldview.
April 2012, ended in December 2014.
Mm. Okay. So yeah, over
We're looking at 12 years.
12 years. Yeah.
Wild.
So cool.
That completely reminds me, by the way, I saw Lauren Montgomery's post on Instagram. I don't know if y'all follow Lauren Montgomery. Was one of the main like canon writers for the series and for the comics, and was one of the main people for the movie that is officially being released later this year.
I'm so
Uh,
excited.
so it is official. They announced the wrap, and it is coming out later this year. So that's very exciting. I'm gonna watch it. Um,
We should talk about it.
I'm sure Sunshine will join for that actually. So that will be fun.
Mm.
Wow, special guest, Sunshine Mayfield.
Sunshine. Um, this feels like a good time for us to transition. So, without further ado, I'm gonna say if you had anything else to say, too bad. We're gonna move on to Twee and La, where we talk about push and pull, balance. What were the things we really found ourselves being like, ooh, super cool, super neat, super awesome? And what were the things we were being like, ew, gross, ew? Um, what did we notice? What happened for us?
I think what pulled me in was Korra and Lynn's moments in this episode. Because I feel for both of them, in retrospect, it makes so much sense that the moments that would sort of like link them would not be moments of dialogue, but moments of action for both of them, where it's Lynn essentially saving Korra twice
Yeah.
at the expense of being able to go after Amon, because neither one of them at this point in the show are very in touch with being able to like bridge that gap with other people through their words, but both of them can do that through their actions and do it very effectively. Um, and I think what pushes me away, though I can't really, properly put my finger on the pulse of why, is the moment where, and curious to hear your guys' thoughts, um, Cora indicates that like they should break the rules as well because the wolf bats are breaking the rules in that engagement, which like though I understand where she's coming from, I feel like in that context it doesn't feel, I guess, productive. But I'm if you guys push back on that at all, I would be very interested to hear.
If you push back, I want to push back against you. So
Wow.
that's funny. Um, okay. Uh, I found myself questioning Cora's strength because Cora's a badass. Hanging on to a non-handled cliff while carrying, was it just Mako or Mako and Bolin?
Just
Right?
Mako.
Okay. Still, like what's the weight on Mako here? Like Mako is a muscular twink, right? And so we've got what? Like at worst, and by at worst I mean at the least amount he would weigh is like 145, right? Like one like right?
Yeah.
And so but most he's a solid 180, right? Like 180, 200, right? If he's got them muscles and anyway, he's tall. I'm saying we're your girl is one-handed able to swing this $200 muscle man up on like and I'm sitting here going like I don't even know if I could hold on to that ledge by myself. And so like homegirl is like athleticism incarnate. And so I just wanted to point that out. There's a reason everybody likes her shoulders when people point about Cora. So anyway, I was like, damn Cora. So that was one. Um, I think the pushed me away moment is Tarlock. Self-explanatory. Like it's like just the whole moment with the council is just like, I hate you. Okay, that's my dog.
Yeah. My push away is I feel like kind of the conversation between Tenzin and Lin and just being like, can we just get along? Like, and I'm like, and then even I don't know, just that whole like subplot. I'm just like, there's clearly some like unresolved things. Like, does Tenzin need to say sorry? Like, who needs to say sorry? Like, I feel like if Lynn is still like kind of acting this way, I don't know. I guess I'm just like, I don't know. Tenzin, do you need to say sorry? Like, do you need to like, I don't know. Do you need to, who needs to be a better person here? Somebody. I'm sensing somebody needs to like own up to
Appease.
something.
Are you saying somebody needs to appease the other? Is that what you're saying?
They need some reconciliation. They need a restorative circle, maybe. I don't know. Something to like cut out this like weird energy. I don't like that. I don't like that. I'm like, who's I want to know who's at fault here. I think my pull in, I don't know, it's hard to say. I really like the fighting on the rooftop with the equalist, the double baton equalist. I don't know. I just thought that the animation was really well done. There's a scene where Korra's reverse elbow comes through the front of the shot, like right down this. It's so good.
Mm, mm.
Mhm.
All right, Maggie, what about you?
I think the thing that pushed me away the most is the idea, because it's so applicable and we've seen it happen in the past, of like these masses of people gathering for like a communal event, a sporting event, and then it turning into a very violent affair or a riot or lives being put in danger. Like that didn't bother me as much the first time, but there was something, and it's probably because of all of the things that are disaster
You saying
happening.
it's topical?
Yeah, like that's happening in the world right now. It's just like that was a very like triggering moment where I was like, oh, this is just so like I think it pushes me away most because I'm like, oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
so real.
This is why we
That's
can't have nice things.
this is yeah, this is why we can't have nice things, and it's okay though. We'll make it through maybe. And then what pulled me in is the part where Tenzin is yelling at the ref because he's now studied the rules to support Korra slash be aware of what's happening. And I just thought that was such a beautiful moment. And it just like that moment, I was like, oh, that's Katara's son right there.
Yeah.
That's such a Katara moment.
Yeah. So good. Okay. Any other honorable mentions before we transition?
What does Lynn say? I can't believe what does she call
The
Aang? Your
pacifist
sweet,
son,
yeah,
yeah.
your sweet soul of a father was reincarnated into that girl. I love that line, or whatever she says.
Yes.
And then he's like, yeah, you two have a lot in common.
Yeah, I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
BFFs, BFFs.
Yeah. I love it. Okay. This is where we hand the reins back to Kelly. We have a lens of fire, fire, as Jean.
Hiya.
So I welcome you to introduce us to our activity today through a lens of fire.
Okay, well, I chose a controlled burn. I was gonna pick maybe one that was a little bit less like intense, but I was like, you know what? We'll just go balls to the wall. It'll be fine. So controlled burn says discuss something that needs to be disrupted or reforged, like forests need occasional fire to grow, fire as creative destruction. So we'll share something in our lives, in the world, in our community, in our brains that need to be disrupted, burned away, cleansed.
Everything?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Like,
literally
how
set it
Burn
all
the
many,
on
world
like,
with
fire.
fire, please. Kill it with fire. Let's
can we
just
like start
restart.
over?
I feel like first it is an important thing because I have thought about this for a long time. Balls to the wall is an idiom, right? That is originates from
No,
aviation.
I don't.
It originates from aviation. It has nothing to do with testicles, is which I,
Darn.
envision every time I hear that term, right? It's original because they used to have the like joysticks that you have on like old school like Atari machines or like
hmm
arcade machines. They used to have those throttles were like knobs, balls at the end of a
Mm.
knob, and they used to balls to the wall by pushing the throttle full up. And so it signifies like full throttle. And I used to think it was like a dirty, dirty reference, and it's not.
It's
Hmm.
like pedal to the metal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Aw, you know what? That makes me probably not going to be using it in mixed company, but still.
Anyway, yeah, I always was like, I don't understand why is that phrase used that way? Anyway, uh, anyway, I digress clearly. Controlled burn, everything? Oh, we already said that.
Mm-hmm.
Some people do believe, when the rapture comes, the world will be cleansed in fire. So could happen.
Some people also avoid conflict. Um,
What?
we're not saying those two are the same. Okay. So many things. This is a wild. Like I like the concept. I think a controlled burn is a really useful metaphor. Um, we've even referenced it in our old version of this.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I know that one of the things that I was talking about with my friends yesterday on a walk through Pittsburgh. So I have a friend that actually works for the city of Pittsburgh as a traffic engineer.
Oh,
Um,
they're familiar
and
with the idiom.
specifically, he works in sort of reworking road design for the purpose of adding bike lanes and, traffic calming methods so that people are safer. But he's a guy that is a traffic engineer that believes that we need to move away from car-centric infrastructure.
Say it again.
One
Mm.
of the
Well,
things that we got into was how, from our starting point, a lot of the challenges we have in the way we move, it causes a lot of frustration among car owners, obviously, but it also causes frustration for people like people with disabilities who rely on cars because the starting point is in a place where things are not built for them, but
mm-hmm.
the intermediate steps to get where we need to go to create an accessible environment for everyone also creates pain points and accessibility for those people as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I know we were talking a lot on it would be nice to just be able to start over from square one,
Oh,
but
come on.
we
Give me
we
one
have to
minute.
start from where we currently are. And it's painful and it's going to be a long and arduous process, but hopefully we can get there.
I would like to do a controlled burn of my house.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
10 out of 10 would recommend. Definitely helps with clearing unwanted clutter.
As one who has experienced a controlled burn in her house, that is why she's saying that
oh, okay. Okay.
in the literal sense.
Uh, yeah. Uh, I meant it metaphorically, actually.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
okay. uh, but I definitely would love a reset. And like I have fond memories of my time in my 20s where I was a stickler for cleaning that I have lost the adamant nature of that. And I really miss, you know, I'm looking around and I see dust. Oh, and I need to wipe down the table. Oh, and I need to do this. And oh, I need to sweep. And oh, I need to empty the vacuum. And oh, I need to. And there's just a lot of things that I just used to be so on top of. And so the idea that something needs to be disrupted is I think I've gotten into a habit of not doing these simple things that don't take much time, and I have instead let them build up to the point where I'm like, I need a major intervention rather than having these slow, small interventions over time throughout time. And so I want to reset. That is something that I really want to do in my personal life. Um, and I think that would appease my sense of need to get things done while also needing to rest. And I think if I did it right, I could get both. So that is my assertion for this activity. Good luck coming up with another option.
Ooh.
Wow.
I
Well,
feel like go, you got it.
okay. I was gonna say, so one of my friends and I were currently in the process of like processing and like working through a rough situation that another mutual friend of ours like put us through. So one of the things that we've been talking out as like a way to help like kind of close the chapter is like we've been writing down like the things that happened and then like timelining it. And then one of the things we've talked about is after we've got it all written out is to put it in a literal fire and like burn the the badness and be like, and we're now done. Like we have processed, we have worked through it, we have talked about it, and like now we're literally gonna like burn that and be like, yep, we're done, type of thing. And if we decide not to burn, then we're gonna just like shred or bury. So like, but we're leaning more towards fire because we both really enjoy fire, and it's getting to that time of year where it's actually something we can do a little bit more accessibly. But that's something that I would like to do in the next couple weeks.
Burn it to the ground. Love it.
Mhm. Okay, I feel like mine I just always you can tell I'm just at a very self-centered point in my life. Mine are always about myself and my own shit that I'm going through constantly, but I want to disrupt this idea in my brain that one, people don't care about me, I do not matter, and then two, that I need to make myself smaller in order to make people comfortable. Because I do that like super regularly and I need to disrupt it. It's something that's pervading other areas of my life, and I'm just like not like worried. I am worried. Whatever. That's a lie. I am worried that it's going to prohibit growth in the future. So
Sounds like you're appeasing other people.
constantly, near
At the
constant.
expense of your own sanity.
Yeah, me and Bolin, we're tight. Just want everyone to be okay. God, ugh, it's exhausting. So
Sorry for wanting everyone to be happy.
it's like my full-time job, but it's all good. It's all good. We don't need that. It's all good. We're gonna kill it with fire.
Indeed. Rahul.
I already discussed mine.
Yeah, I was gonna say the traffic.
Yeah,
The
he
traffic
started
in
it.
here.
Because
We got
yeah, it's
we gotta
not really anything
reforge
I
the
can really
roads.
act on, but it's something that I've discussed and I'm thinking about. I feel like
I thought you were just riffing on the subject. I didn't know.
no.
Yeah. Okay. Lovely. We did it, everyone. Okay.
Yay.
That's so rare. Kelly went last. Okay. I jest. But it's only funny because it's true. Gratitude. We're gonna talk about who we are thankful for. We're gonna talk about characters from the episode, something they did, something they aspire to be, and we're excited to talk about people we're thankful for. So, who is thankful for whom?
I'm
calling
thankful for
Pema.
Tenzin. That's fine. You can call Pema. That's fine.
Okay, go ahead. Why are you thankful for Tenzin?
Kind of like what I said earlier about him like studying the probe ending, but also him being like, I'm gonna be there for Korra, but also for Lynn, right? And literally, you know, kind of being the one to give pushback when the rest of the council was like, yeah, it's totally fine, whatever. And then him standing his ground and being like, okay, then I'm gonna be there because if something goes wrong and or things fall apart, I wanna use my skills and my training to protect those that I care about. I just really appreciated that.
What a guy.
What a guy.
And what a gal.
And what a
Pema, yes. I just like obviously Pema's not even in this episode, but the little mention, between when Korra and Tenzin are talking about it, and Korra's like, I'm surprised that Pema like had the guts to I'm surprised Lynn didn't arrest her. And he's like, oh, she tried. I don't know. Pema's not appeasing anybody.
That's
She
why we
says, I
love her.
couldn't
Yeah.
bear to let my soulmate be with someone else. She was like, I'm not scared of Lynn, even though Lynn is literally a, you know, prodigal second generation metal bender. Like, damn. And she was like, nope, I ain't scared.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Fun, fun, fun.
Yeah. I'm gonna say the pro bending commentator. I
Yes.
don't know if he's given a name
Yes.
because he's, I mean, aside from Tenzin that we see, he's pretty much the only one that's saying like what's going on with this ref. Because like the wolf bats are clearly cheating. Um and I mean obviously he's the one that like his voice is going out to everyone. So the commentator's role is to like say what's happening. And so that one could argue that in terms of appeasement, part of their job within the context of the system is to like appease the crowd. So I really like it when sports commentators actually like say like, oh, like no, what we're seeing is questionable
Yeah,
and
Hmm.
it deserves attention.
agreed.
I have a thought on that real quick before Ben goes. Thinking about how, especially like nowadays, but we see that the commentary is for the radio in previous episodes, right?
Mhm.
So it's also such an interesting thought because we don't know if it's being projected so others can hear it in the pro bending arena, right? It's not that necessary, that crowd, right? Like when you go to a baseball game, you're not listening to the commentary unless you plug in to the radio station that's talking about it. You're just kind of watching it and you're not hearing what's happening. You just have to visually see. So it's so interesting because we know that this isn't a point where there's visual um, input for those not there, right? So they just have the auditory. But then at the same time, those who are visually seeing it are also not actually seeing the whole picture, which is just so fascinating, right? How you really need both, not just one.
Yeah, perspective,
Hmm.
baby. Shiro Shinobi is the name of the commentator,
Okay.
and this is the person who's always narrating the last time on so after a close encounter with a mon, the newsreel effect. Yeah, this is Shiro Shinobi,
Hey, shout out Shiro.
as the transcript helps me understand.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that's the casting on the voice acting is that's the listing. Anyway, I digress. That's his name. I am glad you said that because I was probably thinking that that's a really solid choice. Um, one of the things I both hate and love Tenzin for, and uh, I'm kind of picking a different reason than you, Maggie, is this uh consistency with always being a stickler for doing the right thing. And that is one of the reasons he and Korra rub so much in the earlier episodes is where, nope, this is the exact right way. There's a little bit of a perfectionistic tendency with Tenzin that I struggle with, but it becomes really, really important in moments with the dissent with the council, for instance. His ability to withstand conflict and stand up for what is right is what gives him so much capacity to have disagreement with people. And the reason he comes off as rubbing people the wrong way all the time is because we are in a society that wants us to be comfortable all of the time. And so I just love that he is in this place of challenging that constantly. And also at the same time, I'm like, dude, you're not always right. So like, I want humility, but at the same time, I want him to continue doing exactly what he's doing. So it's a struggle bus, but I am grateful for it, even as I sometimes resent it. Mostly because I often wish I were more conflict forward. Well, now that we've made to our own faults, any other things that we want to make sure we're covering before we sign off?
I think we're good. That was a lot, as is.
Wild, yeah. Okay, yeah, I haven't gone on a rant like that in a hot minute. So, okay, well, we did it. Until next time, be well and do good.
Bye.